people, thanks for coming back. We're going to be talking about the Diadora Equipe Atomo and how it held up for over 300 miles. But before we get into that, the featured running trail for this shoe was the Clayton River Walk. It's part of the Noose River Walk, a nice long stretch of running trail, about 26 miles near Raleigh, North Carolina, and this is a portion of it, the Clayton River Walk. So Diadora is an Italian company. They're not real popular in the US, at least not yet, but neither were On shoes at one point. So this shoe, this is the first launch of its make, so we don't have previous versions of the Equipe Atomo to compare this to. But I know Diadora put a lot into this design and trying to get into the running shoe market, and this is their next attempt at an everyday versatile running shoe. One and also very neat thing about this is made in Italy, right here in the box, made in Italy. Now before we talk about how it fit, let's go over the basics on this one. It's a neutral running shoe, primarily made for road running. It's labeled as moderate to high cushioning, which I would agree with. This only has a 5mm drop, so this heel is 5 millimeters higher than the forefoot. This size is 12, weighed in a nice light 10.16 ounces. That's 288 grams. The fit was true to size. As far as sustainability, I'm not gonna. They don't talk about renewable or reused material in the shoe, but at least the fact that they're doing it in Italy, we're gonna go ahead, save some on maybe the shipping cost and all that. So we'll give them a D for sustainability, and the cost, $195, which is the most I've ever paid for a running shoe. So paying for that Italian flair and color and style. I really love the fit of this shoe. I honestly didn't know how nice and snug and comfortable I could feel in a running shoe until I tried this on. Now I need to preface all that with I have very narrow feet, and so the fact that as much as this was nice and snug and held me in, I would suspect if you have wider feet, this may be a little too snug for you. Certainly would suggest trying it on before you went out and tried to purchase it. Well, of course you always want to try them on anyways, but particularly for the fit on this one, because it does run snug. But if you like a tighter shoe and a more narrow foot, you could be in for a real treat with this shoe. Now this has your typical double engineered mesh. You can see the outer layer. It's got the holes, which seem pretty wide, but the inner layer, yeah, it seems a bit heavy. I noticed that really right when I first wore it anyways, and that same kind of heaviness runs all the way through the shoe. And then when you come up to the tongue is it's definitely on the thicker side with the padding, and so I will say that this whole shoe felt warm, and it did run warm. There's room to improve on that as far as the breathing. That's probably one of the major issues I had. But now, not many shoes talk about or even promote their inner sole, but here we go. This is Diadora's. They boast about this Ortholite insole, which is supposed to run cooler, and it's also been treated to fight against the presence of fungus and bacteria and the accompanying odor. So They actually have been using this same Ortholite insole going back to the first shoe review I ever did, which was the Diadora Mythos Blue Shield Fly Hip, I believe. Funny name, because Equipe Atomo is a funny name. Equipe Atomo. And I don't even know if that's the right way to say it, but at least I'm just trying to be consistent. But they've been using the same thing even back in those shoes. So staying consistent and well, the shoes don't really smell, so perhaps it's doing its job. So I could probably use some of that Ortholite. Once they need to put it in some running shorts, then they'd really be onto something. But anyways, too much information. You know, all this to say, as much as I really liked the fit of the shoe and how it hugged my foot, it was a little bit like wearing a sweater. A little bit too warm, mesh a little too heavy, the tongue a little too baggy. So keep that in mind. And as for the ride, I've come to categorize my shoes into two main categories. I have the rockers and I have the snappers. Rockers seem to kind of more work to roll you forward and up and on. The snappers seem to be a bit more spring loaded, so you reach a point, they seem to jump and leap you forward. This one I would definitely classify as more as a rocker. It reminds me a lot of the Hoka Mach 5 or Mach 4 shoe. I think actually they did come out with Mach 5, as well as the Saucony Ride. Like, I consider those kind of rocker shoes, where for me snap shoes would be more like the New Balance 880 or the Puma Nitro that we just had on. So when it comes to the midsole and the ride, what Diadora promotes is called DD Anima. That's what they call this whole compound that they've got on the insole. And you know, no surprise, like every company, they tell you it strikes that perfect balance between it gives you cushioning, it's lightweight, and it gives you reactivity. So I have to chuckle at all the marketing, though. Everybody tries to market theirs a little different, and so Diadora says, they said the DD Anima favors the foot's transition from impact phase to thrust phase, right? So what's not to love? I'll tell you, well, what's not to love about this was, for me, was the lack of reactivity. You know, for 300 miles, I searched and searched to find a spot. And I can usually get this from almost any shoe where we seem to work well together. I think the shoe worked with me on a certain cadence. I could never find it with this shoe. I always felt like I was doing all the work, and the shoe was along for the ride. And so disappointing about that. And then the other thing was, I was going to wear this shoe for the Pittsburgh Marathon. It was kind of getting near the end. I had 245 miles on it, and I was about 4 weeks out from the marathon, I think, or 3 weeks, and I was doing an 18-mile run. And for the first time ever, I developed a hot spot on the shoe up below this where the tongue is. And again, it's unusual. I haven't experienced that before. And so, needless to say, I was worried. I didn't want to wear it during the Pittsburgh Marathon, because honestly, you know, once something seems to happen, you chafe or get a spot in one area, that's going to seem where it comes back again. So I never took these shoes for another run longer than 12 miles after that, and I ended up wearing the On Cloud Monsters for the Pittsburgh Marathon. And now, as for the Pittsburgh Marathon, now that is a terrific event. We thoroughly enjoyed that whole weekend there. And let me digress here for a second, get my plug-in for getting people to subscribe, because besides the shoe reviews, you know, we're featuring a race in every state. And so Pennsylvania, we end up doing the Pittsburgh Marathon, where we take you around the city bit, see types of food, and take you along the course of the marathon. And so we haven't posted that one yet, but that's coming up. And we try and get out, well, you know, try and do at least 4 states a year. So in any case, go ahead, please subscribe to the channel. So again, you'll know if you hit the notification button, you'll know whenever we post a video. We'll be doing the Arkansas Marathon, Little Rock Marathon next, but then Pittsburgh Marathon is also in production, which means my daughter's working on it. Now, as for my graphs, I felt about mile 265 there was just a little bit of a drop in the cushioning of the shoe. So I mean, it held up great as far as that went, and through 300 it's still very solid, feels very similar to how I got it. But then if you go and look at the graph for the reflexivity, it's a straight line. Again, it was disappointing. I could just never found a good cadence, a good speed that this shoe seemed to work with me. Needless to say, the ride left plenty for me to be desired. For the grip and wear on this, now back when we did that first shoe review on the Mythos Blue Shield Fly Hip, they talked about their Duratec 5000 compound on the bottom, and they still use that for this shoe. And so Diadora is got a pretty rich history about being a quality tennis shoe, and I'm sure they took the technology that they've learned from that, and that they perfected, and they put it in the shoe. Because I don't often talk about the grip because it's usually about the same, but the grip was just fantastic on this one, just like it was on the previous one. So yeah, it's, I don't know if you can see, this is D5000, right? So this is that Duratec 5000. Interesting, they specifically mentioned how it's designed to hold up in the wear. Now if you look here, you can see on the heel where I strike, there's still some pad there. It's getting thin, it's starting to flake a little bit, but the pad is still there. And it's funny, I make notes all along the way. Back mile 75, I remember looking at it and thought, wow, this is starting to show some wear already. But that it held up great, and which I would have been more surprised if it didn't hold up, because since it's the same compound they used on the previous for that Mythos Blue Shield Fly Hip, which held up great. I thought this one would as well. So yeah, as it's done really well. 300 miles. I think I can easily get another 100 miles out of this shoe. So $195, probably 400 solid miles for me. So I really wanted to love this shoe, between the fact that it's made in Italy, that it paid $195 for it. I wanted to tell you that if you like the Hoka Mach, if you like the Saucony ride, you need to give this shoe a shot. But alas, that just ended up not being the case. It's just too heavy on the material, tongue too thick. The fit is great if you got a narrow foot. Give it a shot. Those little I wasn't getting much in the responsiveness to it, the reactivity. So, but that can also always be a personal thing, and anything with a shoe is. So, if you do have that narrow foot, you might want to give it a shot. This could be a great shoe for you. So, it just wasn't great for me. But to end on a positive note, certainly, this is still in my dog walking rotation, because it's still got some life to it. I'm not walking with it during the summer. It's still a warm shoe, but you can get plenty of miles out of it, which is good since you're paying $195. So anyways, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video. Again, please consider subscribing, but even most importantly, please go on out, sign up for some race if you already haven't, and some race in your neighborhood or somewhere close by or somewhere far away. Just go ahead, sign up, put it on your calendar, and start racing the nation.